Welcome back to Learn English by 24/7 Stories. Before you judge a child by his marks, listen to Ethan's story. A boy who failed every exam, yet succeeded in ways no report card could ever measure. Today's story is not just about failure, it's about the courage to rise again. So sit back, relax, and let this powerful journey inspire you. In the heart of a small English town lived a boy named Ethan Brooks, a boy whom teachers labeled as slow, students mocked as hopeless, and even life seemed to challenge at every step. Ethan wasn't lazy, he tried, he truly did, but no matter how many nights he stayed awake or how many pages he memorized, his marks never crossed the passing line. His mother worked double shifts, believing her son needed better opportunities. His classmates laughed behind his back. Every exam result felt like another stamp on his forehead, fail. But life has a strange way of sending the right person at the right moment. One afternoon, after his worst exam result, Ethan met a retired Army officer, Colonel Arthur Grant, a man with a rigid voice, a sharp gaze, and a heart full of untold wisdom. That meeting was the turning point, the spark that would transform a failing boy into someone who would inspire an entire town. This is a story of discipline, struggle, self-belief, and transformation. A story that teaches that marks can measure memory. But not courage. Not heart. Not destiny. The corridors of Riverdale High School echoed with laughter, not the joyful kind, but the sharp, pointed, cruel laughter that stings. Ethan Brooks walked slowly, clutching his report card so tightly that the paper had begun to wrinkle under his sweaty fingers. He had failed again. 3 subjects this time. His teacher's words still rang in his ears. "Ethan, you need to try harder. This is not enough." But Ethan had tried. He had spent nights staring at open textbooks, rereading the same sentence again and again until the words blurred into nothing. His brain just never caught up. It felt slow, heavy, confused, as if everyone else had a map while he wandered through a fog. As he walked, a group of boys leaned against the lockers. Well, look who's here," said Brandon, the loudest in the group. "Riverdale's future, the great failure." Everyone laughed as Ethan lowered his eyes. "Show us the report card." Brandon snatched it before Ethan could react. The boys cracked up. 3 fails. "You're breaking records now." Ethan grabbed the paper and walked away quickly, his throat closing. He wasn't angry, just exhausted. Exhausted from always being behind. Exhausted from always disappointing people. When he reached home, his mother wasn't back from work yet. She worked long hours at a grocery store, stacking shelves and scanning items, dreaming that one day her son would have a life better than hers. Ethan placed the report card on the table. The house was quiet, too quiet. He sat down on the couch and let the silence press on his chest. Maybe I'm not good enough, he thought. Maybe they're all right. He packed his bag for tuition, although he didn't want to go. His tutor would ask questions he couldn't answer, give exercises he couldn't complete, and then sigh loudly, the sigh that said you're hopeless. Ethan left the house anyway. Sometimes, following the routine felt easier than thinking. But instead of going to tuition, he walked aimlessly through the old part of town. His feet led him to the abandoned train station, a place where almost no one came anymore. Vines crawled over broken benches, dust floated lazily in the sunlight, and the wind made the metal boards creak. Ethan loved coming here. It was the only place where the world didn't judge him. He sat on the cold bench and closed his eyes. The soft rustle of leaves felt comforting. Boy! Ethan's eyes snapped open. Standing a little distance away was an older man, tall, firm, dressed in a crisp beige coat despite the afternoon heat. His face was lined but strong, and his sharp eyes studied Ethan closely. His silver hair hinted at age, but his posture was so straight it looked carved out of discipline. "What are you doing here alone?" the man asked. Ethan stammered, "Just sitting." "You look too young to be carrying such a heavy face," the man said, stepping closer. Want to tell me what happened? Ethan hesitated. Who was this stranger? And why did he care? The man seemed to sense the confusion. I'm Colonel Arthur Grant, he said. Retired Army officer. I walk here every afternoon. Helps the legs stay alive. Ethan nodded, unsure. Something about the man's voice, steady, commanding but strangely warm, made him feel safe enough to speak. I failed, Ethan finally whispered. My exams. Again. Colonel Grant looked at him steadily, without surprise, without judgment. And, he asked. Ethan blinked. And, nothing. I'm just, tired of failing. The colonel sat beside him slowly, as if placing himself into the boy's world carefully. What is your name? Ethan Brooks. And Ethan Brooks thinks failing an exam makes him a failure? Ethan stayed silent. The colonel pointed to the old railway tracks. Do you know what those tracks represent? Ethan shook his head. Commitment, the colonel said. 2 lines, running endlessly, never leaving each other. Trains trust them with hundreds of lives. But do you know how many times tracks bend, break, or rust? Ethan looked up in surprise. Countless times, the colonel continued. But engineers don't throw them away. They repair them. Because the track is not useless, it is essential. It only needs maintenance. Ethan listened quietly. You are not a failure, Ethan, Colonel Grant said. You are a track that needs maintenance. And maintenance begins with discipline. Ethan lowered his eyes. I don't think I can do it. I've tried. Trying is not enough, the colonel said firmly. Trying is like throwing stones in the dark. You need direction. You need routine. You need training. Training? Yes, the colonel nodded. Not for exams. For the mind. Ethan looked confused. Colonel Grant folded his arms. If you want, I can train you. Not as a student, but as a soldier. A soldier? Ethan's eyes widened. You will wake early. You will learn discipline. You will follow orders. You will build habits. And slowly, your mind will strengthen. Strong minds don't fail. Ethan felt something he hadn't felt in months, a spark. A tiny one, but real. But why would you help me, he asked. The colonel looked far away, eyes becoming distant. Because once. I couldn't help someone I should have. And I won't repeat that mistake. Ethan didn't understand, but he nodded. Colonel Grant stood up. 7 a.m. tomorrow. Right here. Don't be late. Soldiers are never late. Ethan watched him walk away, tall, steady, powerful. For the first time in a long time, someone had looked at him and not seen failure. Someone had spoken to him like he mattered. As the sun dipped behind the tracks, Ethan felt something shifting inside him. A beginning. A chance. A direction. Tomorrow would be the first day of a completely different life. Ethan returned to Colonel Grant's porch the next afternoon, his school bag still heavy with books he didn't understand and notebooks filled with red marks. The old wooden gate creaked as he pushed it open. Colonel Grant was already standing outside, as if he had predicted that the boy would return. So, the colonel said, arms folded behind his back, you came. Ethan nodded quietly. I want to change, sir. I'm tired of everyone calling me a failure. Grant looked at him for a long moment. Good. Because today is day 1. Of studying? Ethan asked hopefully. Of rebuilding, Grant corrected. He led Ethan to the backyard, which was surprisingly large, neat, and arranged like a mini training ground. There were wooden logs, ropes hanging from a thick tree, and chalk markings on the ground. Ethan blinked. Sir, what does this have to do with exams? Everything, Grant said calmly. Your mind cannot grow if your habits are weak. Today we build habits. 1. Discipline before knowledge. Colonel Grant pointed to a simple wooden bench. Sit. Ethan sat. Now, explain yesterday's mistake. I gave up too easily. And I keep thinking I can't do anything right. Grant nodded. Lesson 1, thoughts are orders. If your mind orders failure, your life obeys. From today, we take command. He handed Ethan a journal. Every night you will write 3 things: what you tried, what you failed, and what you learned. Ethan looked confused. Why write failures? Because failure is a teacher, Grant said firmly. Stop hiding from it. For the first time in his life, Ethan felt someone wasn't disappointed in him. Someone believed he could improve. 2. Physical training for mental strength. Stand up, Grant ordered. Ethan obeyed. Run to that tree and back. 5 times. What? But. No complaints. Run. Ethan ran. He stumbled twice, his breath heavy, but he didn't stop. When he returned the 5th time, sweating and panting, Grant said, Good. Now jump rope for 1 minute. Ethan groaned. Sir, this is torture. Grant chuckled. This is discipline. You want a stronger mind? Build a stronger body. You want focus? Learn control. By the end of the session, Ethan's legs were trembling. Grant handed him a glass of cold water. You endured. That's progress. For a boy who'd always quit halfway, completing something felt new. Powerful. 3. Studying in a new way. Once Ethan caught his breath, Grant placed 3 sheets of paper in front of him. Math, English, and science, Ethan sighed. My worst enemies. Grant smiled. Not enemies. Just puzzles. Today, we don't memorize. We understand. He explained math problems using sticks and pebbles. He turned grammar rules into simple spoken examples. He related science to everyday objects, like friction using Ethan's shoe, or air pressure using a glass of water. Ethan started to understand. For the first time in years, he didn't feel stupid. You're good at explaining, Ethan said sincerely. Grant shrugged. Years of handling scared young soldiers. Ethan smiled, a real, hopeful smile. 4. Facing the darkness. When the study session ended, Ethan packed his things. But as he turned to leave, Grant spoke gently. Ethan, your biggest battle is inside your home. Ethan froze. He didn't talk about his home to anyone, how his mother worked late and returned exhausted, how the house stayed silent, how he ate alone, how he hid his report cards. You're not weak, Grant said softly. You're alone. But you won't be anymore. Ethan swallowed hard. How do you know all this? Grant looked at the sky. Because I've seen boys like you. Lost, scared, carrying the weight of the world with no one to guide them. Ethan lowered his eyes. Sir, do you really think I can change? Grant placed a steady hand on his shoulder. I don't think, he said. I know. 5. The first breakthrough. The next week changed Ethan's life. Every afternoon he trained. Every evening he studied. Every night he wrote in his journal. He still made mistakes. He still stumbled. But he didn't stop. One evening, he ran to Grant's house, waving a paper in excitement. Sir. I passed the weekly maths quiz. I actually passed. Grant raised an eyebrow. Passed, Let me see. He looked at the paper, 15 out of 20. Ethan waited nervously. Is it good? Grant gave a slow smile. It is the beginning. But sir. I've never scored this much before. Grant tapped the paper. Remember this day. Not because you passed, because you changed. Ethan felt something warm in his chest, pride. Not the fake, forced confidence his teachers tried to give him. Real pride. 6. The challenge ahead. But life always tests you hardest before the breakthrough. 2 weeks later, the school announced a major exam. The same exam Ethan failed every year. The same exam that determined whether he would move to the next class. Ethan felt his knees weaken. Sir, what if I fail again? Grant looked him straight in the eyes. Then we will try again. And again. And again. We don't fear failure here. But everyone will laugh, my mother will be so disappointed. Grant raised his voice gently but firmly. Ethan Brooks, look at me. Ethan lifted his head. You're not the same boy anymore. You've earned this fight. Ethan took a deep breath. This time, he would not run away. This time, he would face the exam. The idea that refused to come. For 3 nights, Ethan sat at his desk, tapping his pencil on a blank notebook. A water purifier. A solar lamp. A toy robot. None of it felt right. He wanted to build something meaningful, something that connected with his own story, something that would help kids like him who struggled, not because they lacked intelligence, but because they lacked guidance. But his mind stayed empty. On the 4th night, he walked to Colonel Grant's house, defeated. Colonel. I can't think of anything. What if I fail again? The old officer looked directly into his panic-filled eyes. Ethan, do you remember what I told you? Solutions don't come from books, they come from pain. What hurt you the most? Ethan didn't answer. His silence was enough. And that night, something clicked. The project of a broken heart. The next morning, Ethan grabbed his notebooks, his broken pencils, his old exam sheets, the ones stamped with fail in bold red, and spread them across the living room floor. He stared at them. They stared back. Every red mark, every zero, every remark, it felt like a museum of his failures. But suddenly, he didn't see shame. He saw data. Patterns. Struggles. What if other students also go through this, he whispered. And that was it. The idea. A simple but powerful idea. He ran to Colonel Grant's cottage, out of breath. Colonel. I've got it. Grant raised an eyebrow. Let's hear it, soldier. I want to build something that helps students discover their strengths instead of judging them for their weaknesses. A simple tool, not for marks, but for motivation. Grant didn't smile often. But this time, he did. The long nights of creation. Ethan worked like a machine, not the broken kid everyone mocked but a determined craftsman shaping purpose with his bare hands. He built a wooden box using discarded planks from Grant's backyard. Painted it black and blue, his favorite colors. Added small drawers labeled. You did well today. Your strength today. Habit tracker. Small wins. Inside each drawer, he placed cards with tiny motivational tasks. Write one good thing about yourself. Do 5 minutes of reading aloud. Practice your focus for 60 seconds. Try, fail, try again, write what you learned. He named it the confidence box. Colonel Grant traced the carved letters with his fingers. Well done, Ethan. This is what you were born to create. The big day. The school auditorium was filled with colorful, shiny, flashy inventions. Robots. Apps. Science models. Smart machines with blinking lights. And in the middle of this jungle of technology, stood a simple wooden box, handcrafted by a boy who used to fail every exam. Students snickered. Seriously? A box? This is a science fair, not a joke. He's going to fail again. But Ethan wasn't scared. Because the man who taught him discipline had taught him something even bigger. Confidence is not the absence of fear, it is walking despite fear. The judges arrive. The judges stopped at shiny projects longer. They barely glanced at Ethan's box. Then one of them, an elderly woman, paused. "What is this, dear?" Ethan inhaled deeply. "It's called the confidence box, ma'am. It's for students who feel they're not good enough. It helps them build habits, discipline, and self-belief. Like a small coach inside a box." The auditorium fell silent. Students turned to listen. Teachers leaned forward. "So, does it improve marks?" a teacher asked mockingly. Ethan's eyes sharpened. "No, sir. It improves students. That's far more important." The judge blinked. She wasn't expecting that. The moment of truth. After an hour, the results were announced. In first place. Cheers exploded. It wasn't Ethan. In second place. His name didn't come again. He stood quietly, heart sinking, but strangely, there was no tears this time. Then the judge stepped forward again. "There is one special award left. An award not for science, not for innovation, but for impact. For something that truly changes lives." The auditorium held its breath. This award goes to Ethan Brooks and his confidence box. Everything blurred. Students clapped. Teachers paused in disbelief. And Ethan stood frozen. Colonel Grant placed a steady hand on his shoulder. "I'm proud of you, son." For the first time in years. Ethan believed those words. The aftermath. Parents began asking if they could take a copy of the confidence box. Teachers wanted one for their classrooms. The school principal even announced, "We will be introducing the confidence box system for students who need motivation and structured discipline." Ethan almost choked on happiness. He hadn't just passed the competition. He had passed life's biggest test. Epilogue: The boy who succeeded. Months later, Ethan's marks improved. Not because he studied harder, but because he finally believed he could. Confidence became his subject. Discipline became his strength. And failure became his best teacher. Ethan Brooks, once called the boy who failed every exam, had finally succeeded. Not in school. But in life. And as Colonel Grant said the day Ethan thanked him, "Remember, soldier, greatness is not measured by marks. It's measured by courage. Remember, failure is not the opposite of success, it is part of success." Just like Ethan, you're only one strong decision away from changing your entire life. If today's story touched your heart, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And tell us in the comments. What is the biggest lesson you learned today? See you in the next motivational story.